from today, lecture. No, I'm sorry, today's Wednesday. A week from this coming Monday.
The 15th, right?
I believe that's right, 15th. 15th will be lecture, 17th will be lab. Got it?
Ready?
Okay. You obviously have to know the basic divisions of the nervous system. Central nervous, peripheral nervous, and all the subdivisions. So peripheral nervous system is broken down into what?
Motor and sensory, right?
You're right, motor and sensory. And then we can break the motor down further. What's it broken into? Somatic and autonomic. And then I can break the autonomic down even further, sympathetic and parasympathetic. So you should know all of those divisions, what structures they would involve, and what they do.
What do you mean structures?
I mean, for example, central nervous system is brain and spinal cord. Peripheral nervous system are spinal nerves, cranial nerves, and ganglia. And when I'm talking about, for example, let's say the sympathetic division, I'm talking about innervating autonomic organs like the heart or the diaphragm. I'm doing it in such a way that I create a flight or fight response. Look on page 349. There's a breakdown of it right there. Over on 350, it tells you the difference between somatic sensory, visceral sensory, somatic motor, and visceral motor. You need to know what those terms refer to. Somatic sensory, visceral sensory, somatic motor, visceral motor. We need to know the major parts of the neuron. Cell processes, axons, dendrites, cell body, Nissl bodies, the axon hillock, the myelin sheath, Schwann cells, nodes of Ranvier,
We do
axon terminal,
know like diagram, like what it looks like.
pretty much.
Drawing it.
Could be drawing it, could be labeling a drawing. Okay. Now, again, we'll go over the lab separately, but more than likely that'll be like a lab question as far as the diagram itself. But you should know the functions, no doubt. You should know, what's the function of, for example, Nissl bodies. With nervous tissue, we need to know not only the different parts of the neuron and what the neuron does, we also need to know what a synapse is and be able to identify the different little parts of the synapse.
That's 353.
That would be 353. I would agree with that. On 354, it shows the different types of structural variation in neurons. You should know what a multipolar, bipolar, and unipolar neuron looks like. On 355, we talked about functional classes of neurons. Sensory neurons, motor neurons, interneurons. You should know what they do and where I would find them.
Now, what did you say?
I said functionally speaking, when we're talking neurons, we divide them into three functional classes: motor neurons, sensory neurons, and interneurons. We also use the terms afferent, efferent, and association. So you need to know what those are and where they're located. In other words, which ones are in the central nervous system, which are in the peripheral nervous system. There on page 356, we talked about 6 different types of neuroglia. I need you to know what they are, what they look like. In other words, what do they do, and what do they look like, and are they found in central or peripheral nervous system? So what are the 6? Astrocytes, oligodendrocytes, microglia, ependymal cells, satellite cells, and Schwann cells. The last 2 are peripheral nervous system. The first 4 of those were central nervous system. On page 359, we have a typical nerve. We need to know what a nerve is made of, the different layers of connective tissue. So the outermost connective tissue is what? Epineurium. The one around the nerve fascicles would be perineurium. The one around the nerve fibers would be endoneurium. And what is another name for a nerve fiber? An axon. And what would be a smaller structure within an axon? Nerve fibers are made up of neurofibrils. So neurofibrils are the smallest. Then there's nerve fibers, then there's nerve fascicles, then there's the nerve. So the nerve is the largest. It's made up of nerve fascicles. Nerve fascicles are made up of nerve fibers. Nerve fibers are made up of neurofibrils. All right, looking on page 360. 360 shows you a cross-section of the spinal cord, and it's showing you, first of all, where the interneurons are located in that spinal cord. It's showing you the dorsal and ventral roots and what kind of information they carry. So you need to know what kind of information is carried in the dorsal or ventral root, and what kind of information is carried in the spinal nerve. And again, there's a lot of crossover here between the lecture and the lab exam. I mean, it's kind of hard to do one without doing the other. I'll also point out specific structures on the lab exam, but like I say, there is a lot of crossover. Number 361, you should be able to describe a reflex arc. And we talked about multisynaptic and monosynaptic reflexes, or polysynaptic and monosynaptic is the way your book describes them. So you should be able to describe a reflex arc.
What do you mean what goes through a spinal nerve? What do you mean?
What kind of information? What kind of information goes through